Good day. Welcome to your podcast all about 5 cultural stops in the world of animation, where we analyze cultural representation and cultural identity in Western animated movies. Chapter 5 is Yōkai, Western or Japanese, an analysis of Kubo and the Two Strings. This chapter focuses on Kubo and the Two Strings, which is an American animated film produced by animation studio Yōkai in 2016 based on a Japanese background. Both American and Japanese producers and creators have built vital cultural industries. Therefore, it is of positive significance to understand how the Japanese culture is represented in American films. The main characters in this film are monsters, so-called Yōkai in Japanese culture, such as the mother-turned-monkey, father-turned-beetle, and the grandfather Moon King. Some of these images come from the traditional Japanese culture, some from the imagination of the West, and some integrate the characters of other East Asian countries. The research questions in this chapter are how accurately this film represented the Japanese culture, and should this film be considered a Western product as cultural imperialism predominantly, or is it a successful cultural hybrid? To answer these questions, first, the chapter uses image analysis method and discourse analysis method to explore the image, context, and the personality of the Yōkai in this film to see their origins and analyze whether the characters are in line with Japanese values. Second, the chapter checks whether Japanese audiences have found a cultural identity in this film through the audience reception analysis method. The chapter finds that the mother-turned-monkey accurately interprets the Japanese culture. The father-turned-beetle is a mix of Japanese and Western culture. The giant skeleton in the film is an exact copy of the Japanese Yōkai Gaishadokuro. And the animal form of the grandfather, the moon beast, is a kind of Western imagination which is unrelated to Japanese culture. From the perspective of the cultural imperialism, Kubo and the Two Strings delves into Japanese culture and has great respect for the Japanese nation. Thus, the film is definitely not cultural imperialism. However, there is indeed otherness and Orientalism. Some characters look more like Chinese or Korean rather than Japanese. This imagining of conflicting East Asian cultures makes this film seem like what Said called Orientalism. However, Japanese culture, Chinese culture, and the Korean culture are naturally very similar. Therefore, the otherness and the Orientalism of this film are passive rather than active, and it is inevitable. From the perspective of audience reception, this film received a lot of positive reviews from Japanese audience and made them find their cultural identity. In conclusion, most of the Yōkai characters in this film have roots in traditional Japanese culture. The filmmakers succeeded in showing the history, detail, and deep meaning of Japanese culture. The film is by no means cultural imperialism, but inevitably has a little otherness and Orientalism. Overall, this film has enabled Japanese audiences to find a cultural identity. It can be said that it is a tribute to Japanese culture by American filmmakers, and it can also be said to be a positive fusion of the American film industry and Japanese culture. This is the end of our cultural journey across the world of Western animation. Hope you enjoy it.